Hello and welcome back to the channel, where we combine the wisdom of years of clinical practice with modern science to help you live your best life after 60. Today, we're going to talk about something that could, literally, save your life. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people over 60 suffer a stroke or a cerebrovascular accident. Many times, it's without warning, without ever knowing the danger was lurking. But what if I told you that the first signs and the biggest risks are hidden in plain sight? And that certain morning routines, things you've done for years, could be silently tripling your stroke risk? This revelation is based on decades of clinical observation, echoing the work of one of the greatest names in Japanese longevity, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. He, who practiced medicine until he was 105, was a pioneer in warning his patients about how morning routines can be a dangerous blind spot for vascular health. And the most recent Western science has confirmed every one of his warnings. Stay with me, because we're going to dive deep into this. The clock for stroke prevention doesn't start in the middle of a stressful day. It starts the moment you wake up. And what you do in the first 60 minutes of the day could make all the difference. Many of us imagine a stroke as something dramatic, a sudden collapse, slurred speech, one side of the face paralyzed. And yes, these are the symptoms of an emergency. But what we need to understand is that the warning signs usually come beforehand, subtly, and hide in our simplest movements. The first real sign I teach my patients to watch for isn't pain or dizziness. It's a sudden shift in coordination. You reach for your toothbrush and your hand doesn't land where it should. You try to sip your tea and it dribbles slightly. You button a shirt and your fingers just feel off, not paralyzed, not numb, just wrong. These aren't dramatic symptoms, which is why they're so dangerous. They are neurological. Your brain is responsible for every smooth movement you make, so when something feels clumsy, sluggish, or uncoordinated, that's not just aging. It's a potential interruption of blood flow. Let me tell you a story. I had a patient, a 74-year-old retired accountant. He came into my office not because he felt sick, but because he noticed he was dropping his keys more often. His wife had noticed he was having trouble with buttons. He thought it was arthritis, but when I questioned him further, he revealed that a few days earlier, he tried to write a grocery list, and for a moment, forgot how to spell milk. No headache, no slurred speech, but something was wrong. We ran a scan and found that he had experienced a small TIA, a transient ischemic attack, earlier that week. The next 48 hours were critical. We adjusted his medications, improved his diet, and monitored his blood pressure and hydration. He never had a full stroke because we acted on the warning. And that's what we need to do. According to a study published in the journal The Lancet Neurology, the first 48 hours after a TIA are the highest risk window for a major stroke, and if a patient receives treatment during that time, the risk of a major stroke drops by more than 80%. That's why being aware of these small signs is so powerful. The dangerous morning routine. But why is the morning so dangerous? Because your brain wakes up before you do. And for most people over 60, the first hour after opening your eyes is when the body is most vulnerable. Overnight, we become dehydrated. We go 6 to 8 hours without water. Our blood gets slightly thicker. And cortisol, the stress hormone, has a sharp spike at dawn, which for many seniors causes blood pressure to rise. This creates the perfect storm: thick blood, constricted vessels, and a surge in pressure through arteries that are no longer so young. Now, let's talk about the morning habits that turn this storm into a real risk. Habit 1. Skipping water in the morning. Most people wake up and go straight for coffee, but they don't drink a drop of water. And this is one of the biggest mistakes. After a night's sleep, your blood is like a sponge with no water in it. This increases its viscosity, which makes it move more slowly and clot more easily, straining the heart and brain. A study from the European Journal of Neurology found that low morning hydration was a contributing factor in 48% of first-time ischemic strokes. Nearly half, folks, not genetics, not diet, just pure dehydration. What should you do? Before anything else, drink a full glass of water. At room temperature or warm, not ice cold, so your body absorbs it better. Before coffee, before pills, before turning on the TV. You are rehydrating your brain. I had a patient, Mrs. Maria, 78 years old, who had an impeccable morning routine. She would wake up, take her blood pressure and diabetes medication with a sip of black coffee, and only an hour later would she eat. She never felt thirsty, but she often had mild dizziness in the morning. She attributed it to old age. One morning, she fell. Fortunately, it wasn't a stroke, but a TIA. When we analyzed her routine, we realized that the cortisol spike, the blood pressure rise, and the dehydration from the night, combined with the action of medications on an empty stomach, created a high-risk scenario. The simple change of drinking a glass of water upon waking and eating something light before her medication transformed her health and eliminated the dizziness. Water isn't just to quench thirst. It's the lubricant your vascular system needs to wake up. Habit 2. Sitting too long in bed. The second habit is something almost no one talks about: sitting in bed for too long before getting up. After 60, your blood vessels are less elastic. If you go from hours of lying down to just sitting motionless, blood pools in the lower body. This reduces blood return to the heart and brain. For someone with a risk of clots, this can be the trigger. The heart has to work harder to pump the blood that has become stagnant. This may seem counterintuitive. We think of lounging in bed as a sign of rest, but it's actually a trap. Many strokes happen not during deep sleep, but in the first few hours after waking up, when people get up abruptly. Think of your circulatory system as a river. During sleep, the flow is slow and calm. When you wake up, you need a stimulus to get the flow back to normal. If you sit on the edge of the bed for 20 or 30 minutes without moving, blood begins to stagnate in your legs. When you finally stand up, the heart needs extra effort to pump that pooled blood. And if there's any tiny clot that formed during the night, that effort could be enough to dislodge it, sending it to the brain. My recommendation: wake up slowly, but move early. From the Japanese warm-up for the elderly that I learned, while still lying down, roll your ankles, flex your toes. After you sit up, do shoulder circles and neck rolls. Stand up gently. Just 2 minutes of light movements can prepare your body for a much safer morning. Habit 3. Skipping breakfast. The third habit is skipping breakfast. And I don't mean a feast, but not eating anything at all. Many older adults wake up, drink coffee, take their medications, and eat nothing. They say they're not hungry or that they're trying intermittent fasting. But after 60, this can be risky. The brain runs on glucose and doesn't store much of it. If you're already dehydrated and you don't eat, you're creating the perfect storm for dizziness, mental fog, or worse, a vascular event. This is especially true if you take medication for blood pressure or diabetes. Failing to eat can cause hypoglycemia, which directly affects brain function and increases the risk of falls and other accidents. I remember the case of Mr. Robert, a 68-year-old retired executive. He was a great advocate of intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast to stay in shape. He was proud of it. However, he started having episodes of forgetfulness in the morning, where he would get lost for seconds in a conversation or forget the names of simple objects. He took medication for blood pressure and cholesterol, and over time, the fasting combined with these medications and morning dehydration was depleting his brain's energy. What he thought was discipline was, in fact, depriving his brain of the necessary fuel at the most critical moment. Instead, eat a small, protein-rich breakfast, half a boiled egg, a spoonful of yogurt, a handful of walnuts. Something that stabilizes your blood sugar. It's not about appetite, but about circulation, stability, and rhythm. Habit 4. Diving straight into stress. The fourth habit is diving into stress as soon as you wake up. This means grabbing your phone and reading the news before getting up, checking emails at the breakfast table, or starting an argument before you've even had water. Your brain, after sleep, is in a fragile state. Your cortisol is already peaking, and your blood pressure is naturally rising. If you add mental strain to that moment, you amplify physiological stress. A 2015 study in the journal Stroke followed over 93,000 people over 60 and found that those who experienced high psychological stress early in the day were significantly more likely to suffer a stroke. And the risk was highest in the first 3 hours after waking. The solution? Create a buffer. 10 minutes of silence, gentle stretching, or just sitting with your tea in peace. Give your brain a chance to stabilize before you overload it with the day's demands. I remember a patient, Mrs. Anna, who retired and started waking up and turning on the TV to watch the news. She said she needed to stay informed. But the news often made her anxious, with her heart racing. She didn't realize that the bombardment of negative information first thing in the morning was raising her cortisol and blood pressure, adding to the natural peaks. When I advised her to read a book or listen to classical music for 10 minutes before exposing herself to the news, she reported feeling calmer and less anxious throughout the day. This small pause is fundamental. It's not about ignoring the world, but about protecting yourself at the most vulnerable time. Habit 5. The danger of stillness. And now, the most dangerous of all, the one most people ignore. It's one word, but it's the foundation of all the other risks. Stillness. And I'm not talking about that kind of peace. I'm talking about physical inactivity. Waking up and then spending the next hour or two sitting on the bed, at the table, on the couch. No real circulation, just stagnation. We associate danger with doing too much, but here's the opposite. It's the danger of doing nothing. Stillness in the morning causes the vascular system to slow down. The legs become pooling zones, and that's where most clots begin. A study in the journal Circulation tracked 8,000 adults over 60 and found that those who spent more than 9 hours a day sedentary had double the stroke risk, even if they exercised later in the day. This is crucial. What the study shows is that the time you spend sitting is just as important as the time you spend exercising. Morning inactivity is an independent risk factor. What happens is that the blood becomes more prone to clotting. Your vessels don't push blood upward as easily, and the lack of movement decreases the flow. Think of Mr. Joseph. He was a very disciplined retiree. He walked for 45 minutes every afternoon. But in the morning, he would spend 2 hours reading the newspaper in his armchair. He thought the afternoon exercise would compensate. But one day, he had a stroke. Doctors discovered that the clot formed in his leg and dislodged. The danger was not in the lack of exercise, but in the morning stagnation. What to do? Just 5 to 10 minutes of light mobility, march in place, do shoulder rolls, stretch your arms overhead, walk to the mailbox. Tell your blood it's time to flow. Because when blood flows, the brain thrives. And when the brain thrives, the health of the entire body follows. So, what does this all mean for you? And what comes next? Health after 60 isn't about drastic changes. It's not about starting a strict diet tomorrow or signing up for an expensive gym membership. It's about consistent awareness. It's about small acts of love and respect you offer your body day after day. Your brain isn't demanding perfection. It's just asking for your attention. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, our beacon of longevity, used to say, "Energy comes from feeling good, not from worrying." Don't worry about having a long life. Just focus on living in the present. And what we've talked about today is the essence of living in the present with care and intentionality. True longevity, the kind that keeps us active and our minds sharp, is built in the smallest details, in the choices we make before the sun has even fully risen. Don't ignore what your body has been trying to tell you. Start tomorrow with a glass of water, with a gentle movement, with a nourishing breakfast, and with a few minutes of calm before you dive into the day. You don't need a new supplement or a complicated exercise machine. You just need a new awareness. If this video resonated with you, If it made you think of someone you love, please don't keep this information to yourself. Share this video with your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, or anyone you want to see thrive. Hit the like button and subscribe so we can continue to spread this message of health and hope. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Take good care of yourself. Warmly, Dr. Lauren Hart.